to the Middle Ages. And in Middle Ages, they go to Rome because Rome is, the religious city or the cultural city as well, because it was the city of Renaissance. So, since the Renaissance, it was like, a new arising, and the winds had changed. So, these poets, they again and again, they escaped to the Middle Ages. And for them, Middle Ages were like, Middle Ages were like a golden age. They wanted to uh, continue in Middle Ages. So this escapism, the critics have they have said no much about this escapism. Now we again take up a few lines, literary lines or the poetic lines, and if we go in Shelley's To the Night, we can just appreciate this escapism to the Middle Ages in these beautiful lines. Now, talking of death and sleep and comparing these two feelings, Shelley says, death will come when thou art dead, soon, too soon. Sleep will come when thou art fled. Of neither would I ask thee boon. I ask of thee, beloved night, swift be thy approaching flight. Come soon, soon. Now, aspiring for this night because he wants to enjoy his solitude. As in the case of Wordsworth, in his poem Solitary Reaper, actually, he is talking of his own solitude because he has got fed up from city life. And in personal life also, Wordsworth had gone to London for his further studies, and while living in these dirty cellars, he always remembered his beautiful village with a natural ambience, and that village, the beautiful valleys of Scotland. And while living in this commercial city, London, he got fed up of this city life and he wanted to again go back in the country life. So, Wordsworth, if we talk of Coleridge, Coleridge in his poems, we have got one of his poems, Kubla Khan. In this Kubla Khan, he just dreams of an imaginary city built by Kubla Khan, and there are beautiful flowers, and you know there are beautiful streams, and the there's a beautiful castle. The wind is flowing, and all the people are happy in their kingdom. Now that is an imaginary uh, world. This is not a real world, because real world is that which is very harsh, very cruel, and all these romantic poets, they loved they loved imagination, and in that sense, they wanted to be free from the riddles of this real world, and they for this they chose this method of escapism. Now, when they wanted to escape, so where to escape? Because as we know, that England did not have a very beautiful past, and of course, Europe is a connected continent. So, their religious city or the cultural city, as we say, that is Rome, because as we know that in Rome they have got Vatican City where Pope resides, and this city has all the churches only. So Renaissance started from there. Now these poets while talking of this kind of poetry, they want to achieve that word. So this world where they want they want to get lost is the world of imagination and emotion. They are fed up from harsh reality, and uh, they have created their own world. This part is very important, because when we cannot achieve that world in real life, uh, our imagination, through our imagination, we create this world of our own in our imaginations. So these poets also, if you see that these poets were fed up of reason and intellect, because the prior ages, the age of Pope, and before that we have the age of Dryden, they were the age of reason and intellect. And poetry had become something which was talking of intellectual level. So this fresh change, this this was like a fresh wind, and this fresh wind, it tried to take the people in an imaginary world, because the real world was full of trifles, troubles, and so many kinds of problems. Now, in this context, if we go in the personal life of these poets, nearly all these poets had a traumatic personal life. Keats, he died at a young age of 26 only, because he was criticized by the critics, by the when he sent his poems to be published in Blackwood magazine, any quarterly review. They were returned with this remark that these cannot be called poems. Now, affected by these remarks, because in real life he was a male nurse, he did not have a permanent job, his family life was disturbed, the girl he wanted to marry, he you know he could not get married, so he was passing through a tumultuous time, and therefore he created an imaginary world of his own. And if we see a few lines from Byron, so we have this Byron's "She walks in beauty," and in this poem we have a fantastic four lines. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that is best of dark and night meet her aspect and her eyes. Now you just imagine that the poet is talking of an imaginary beloved, and of course she is beautiful in totality, because she has these physical features, and of course the mental faculties are also of this level. So here we have these expressions that the beloved who walks in beauty is like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies. Just imagine. Now, while reading these poetic lines, uh, our mind, we become emotional. Any emotional reader, when he or she goes through these lines, his mind is not in that, his mind is not in a thinking process, but of course it gets lost in an imaginary world. And this we have some heightened emotional sensibilities, and our mind develops imaginative flights of genius, and we reach, of course our mind, through these frenzies, it reaches to some other world, and this world is quite different from the world where we live. So, while talking of this world, Byron in this poem he talks of this as you know, as we have seen these lines. Now, one of the other very important features of this kind of poetry, that is, romantic poetry, was the use of supernaturalism. Now, what is meant by supernatural? So, whatever is natural is naturalism, and whatever is something above natural is supernatural. So, talking in our own words, we can say that whatever which is not found in nature and whatever belongs to another world, such a world which we cannot see, which we can just dream only, which we can just imagine only. So, this kind of world is a supernatural world. And all these poets, as we have been talking on and on, that all these poets they wanted to enter such a world which was far above from this natural world. So, in this natural world, there are troubles, trivialities, but they get all these poets' soul, it gets transformed to some other soul, and this soul travels through ages and ages, and they reach to such a position where they start thinking of some supernatural kind of things, and this world is full of wonder, mysticism, a kind of mystery is there. Now, in this context, we must remember the poets like S.T. Coleridge. Now, as we know, that S.T. Coleridge and Wordsworth they brought this change, and they are the two persons who just came out with their first publication, the Lyrical Ballads, which was published in 1795. Now, they two had the same temperament, and when they two combined, they thought alike, that and they got quite bored from the ongoing trends of, and they wanted to break from the set rules. Now, in the past, if we see, actually this romantic revolution, it was brought up by these two poets uh, through the publication of Lyrical Ballads in 1795. But if you go back, then we come across a poet, Thomson, and Thomson in Seasons in 1753, his Seasons was published. And in while talking of seasons, because that time the poetry was quite artificial. It was something which was discussed in drawing rooms. It was full of humor, satire, irony, burlesque, all these artificial things. The outgoing nature, or the nature which are outside, it was not appreciated. But these poets were writing of human nature, and through their poetry, they were talking of the artificiality. They were satirizing. Of course, they were satirizing the different trivialities of life. These poets like Alexander Pope. Now, they were satirizing. If we see Rape of the Lock, so Pope has used wit in many senses, wit, satire, innuendo, burlesque, but actually he was discussing only human nature, and they were miles away from this beautiful nature. Now, Shelley and this Coleridge and Wordsworth, they thought alike, and they gave a slogan that if we want to remain happy, let's come out from our drawing rooms and let us go back into the lap of nature. And they considered that nature is like our mother, because when some child, when a child, he is in distress, only his mother's lap can solace him. So, when we are fed up with this kind of humanly behavior or these artificial things, this poet said that we should go into lap of nature, and of course they also brought the concept of pantheism. This was very important change, and here when we see this Indian literature, this appears to be a very common thing for us, but in English literature, it was considered a major change, and this was called pantheism, the feeling of Panchatattva, pantheism. So they talked of the elements of nature, that to remain happy and to attain the tranquility of our uh, emotions, tranquility of our mind, we have to go to nature. Now, for this, they also used this concept, and this was supernaturalism. Now, in this context, I just recall a beautiful long narrative poem by Coleridge, and that is, of course, the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which happens to be written in very elaborate and lucid style. And there, he made use of this supernatural elements. Now, if you look at a poem in our course, and this poem is again Keats' Ode to Autumn. Now, let's have a look at these beautiful lines from this poem, where we can appreciate the use of supernaturalism. These lines are: while appreciating autumn, uh, Keats go on and he says, he